Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we break down complex, cutting-edge research into knowledge you can actually use. Today, we're tackling, well, the big one, scientific strategies for human longevity.
Exactly. And this isn't just general health advice. We're diving into some really fascinating sources today. That includes proprietary analysis from Gulpembe Yakun, the founder of Yakun Sanat in Denizli. She combines her own research with AI insights.
Right, to give us really targeted advice. Because you, our listener, want the real science, right? Not just surface tips, but the why, what's happening in your cells. And crucially, what specific things can you do to slow aging down?
And first, let's just clarify what we mean. We're talking pro-aging, improving your health span. It's really different from typical anti-aging, which often just focuses on, skin deep stuff, wrinkles and whatnot.
Okay, so pro-aging is deeper.
Much deeper. It's about preventing chronic disease, keeping your biological age as low as possible, really tackling aging at the molecular level. So as you gain wisdom, you're not bogged down by those conditions that, well, unfortunately, hit so many people later on.
Maximum vibrancy, that's the goal. And the research is clear, isn't it? Before any fancy interventions, you've got to nail the basics. We pulled out 6 key pillars. Non-negotiables, really.
Yeah, foundations. Let's start with one that's maybe a bit unexpected, the mental side.
Pillar 1, stay curious. It's called a wisdom strength.
It really is. The research highlights that a big red flag for faster aging is, well, losing interest. Not wanting to learn new things, meet new people, try new experiences, that kind of fizzling out.
So that sense of wonder, that drive to learn, it actually keeps your brain younger?
It keeps forging new neural pathways, absolutely. And that mental energy often leads right into the next pillar.
Which is?
Pillar 2. Build social connections. We all know loneliness is bad news for health, but the sources brought up something really actionable, micro-connections.
Micro-connections. Like tiny interactions.
Exactly. That quick, friendly chat with the barista, maybe. Or just smiling at someone in the supermarket line. It doesn't have to be deep friendships every time. These little positive bursts, they release good neurochemicals. They fight that isolation linked to inflammation.
That makes sense. Okay, let's get physical. Pillar 3. Lift heavy things.
Oh, this one is critical. I'd almost say it's an emergency focus for longevity.
An emergency? Why so urgent?
Sarcopenia, that's the drastic loss of muscle mass and function as we age. It creeps up on you. The research is really strong on this. Resistance training is absolutely vital. Forget hours of endless cardio if you have to choose.
So things like squats, push-ups, pull-ups, compound movements.
Spot on. Movements that use multiple joints build functional strength.
And there was a specific warning sign mentioned too, right? Something practical.
Yes, grip strength. It's a really powerful indicator of overall muscle health and, frankly, mortality risk. If you suddenly find it hard to open a jar, that's a signal. You need to work on it, use grippers, focus on pulling exercises, keep that functional ability.
Makes sense. And tied right into muscle is pillar 4. Prioritize protein. The numbers here seemed, well, pretty high.
They are high compared to, say, standard government guidelines, because those guidelines are often too low for optimal aging. As you get older, especially for women, your body just doesn't synthesize protein as efficiently. You need more raw material.
How much more are we talking?
Potentially up to 1 gram of protein per pound of your ideal body weight. Think about that.
1 gram per pound. That sounds like bodybuilder levels. And the source mentioned aiming for what, 50 grams just for breakfast?
Yeah, it's a significant target. It really forces you to prioritize protein.
So how do you realistically hit that? Is it all meat or do you need shakes?
It's often a mix.
Yeah.
It means protein needs to be the star of every meal. Maybe eggs, Greek yogurt, lean meats, or, yes, a quality protein shake first thing. The reason it's so high and recommended early in the day is to maintain a positive nitrogen balance. Muscle loss happens fast. If you don't get enough protein early, you're playing catch-up all day and likely losing ground.
Okay, that clarity helps. Pillar number 5, adequate sleep. We know it's important, but why specifically a longevity pillar?
Because the quality often tanks as we age. It's not just about hours in bed. Sleep is when your brain and body do major cleanup and repair. Deep sleep, REM sleep, those are crucial.
And those are the stages that diminish.
Very often, yes. So the research suggests using tracking tools like an Oura ring or something similar, not just to see how long you slept, but how much actual restorative sleep you got. That's the key metric.
Got it. And the final lifestyle pillar, pillar 6, meaningful work or purpose.
Yeah, this isn't just about staying busy, it's about connection, mental stimulation, feeling valued. Working past the traditional retirement age, if it's work you find meaningful, is strongly linked to staying vibrant.
Is that cause or effect, though? Are healthier people just more likely to keep working, or does the work itself truly slow down aging at a cellular level?
It's probably a bit of both, but the mechanisms are getting clearer. Purpose lowers chronic stress, right? Less cortisol, less inflammation. Plus, sustained mental engagement, learning new skills, problem solving that directly supports neuroplasticity, keeping the brain sharp.
So that mental vibrancy seems to translate downwards to cellular health.
Exactly, it's all connected.
Okay, so those are foundations, really crucial stuff. But understanding why these things work, down at the cellular level, that's the real motivation sometimes.
Absolutely. Let's peel back the layers and look inside the cell. We can use Dr. Sandra Kaufman's framework here. It helps organize the core aging principles.
Great. Let's start with cellular principle 1, DNA integrity.
Mm.
The cell's brain, basically.
Right. And the stats suggest aging really kicks off around 35, biologically speaking. Your DNA faces three main threats. One is telomere shortening, those protective caps on chromosomes getting shorter. That's pretty well known. Two is epigenetic changes, how your environment basically flips gene switches on or off, sometimes badly. And three, this is important but less talked about, heterochromatin distribution.
Heterochromatin. Okay, break that down for us.
Think of your DNA like it's stored in a super organized filing cabinet. Heterochromatin is the tightly packed, well-filed part. As cells age, this system gets messy, things get disorganized, files misplaced. And when the cell can't find the right instructions quickly or reads the wrong file, well, that increases risk for all sorts of dysfunction, including cancer.
A messy filing system inside the cell. I like that analogy. So how do we keep things tidy? What helps DNA integrity?
Well, the sources mentioned something surprising: low-dose lithium.
Lithium, like the mood stabilizer.
In very low nutritional doses, there's growing evidence it helps support overall DNA stability, sort of shores up the structure. Another thing is boosting natural DNA repair. An extract called polypodium from a fern has shown promise. It seems to help cells fix damage, especially from things like UV exposure.
Interesting. Okay, moving on to energy. Principles 2 and 3. Mitochondria and sirtuins. These sound linked.
Oh, they're totally intertwined. Mitochondria are your cellular power plants. As they decline with age, you get less NAD+, and NAD+ is like the energy currency. Cells need it for almost everything.
Yeah, sirtuins.
Sirtuins are master regulators. SRT1, SRT6 are key ones. They manage DNA repair, metabolism, loads of stuff. But here's the catch. They need NAD+ to function. So declining mitochondria means less NAD+, which means sirtuins can't do their jobs properly. It's a vicious cycle.
And this connects back to a really common issue people face, right? Waking up in the middle of the night.
Exactly. This is a fascinating link in the research. Low NAD+ and sluggish sirtuins mess with your circadian rhythm proteins. These proteins, clock, period, cryptochrome, they control your sleep-wake cycle. When sirtuins aren't working right because NAD+ is low, your internal clock gets disrupted.
So you might fall asleep okay, but then, pinkum, wide awake at 3 a.m. because the molecular timing is off.
That's a very plausible explanation for many people. The internal timing mechanism is literally breaking down at a cellular level.
Wow. So the fix isn't just like chamomile tea before bed, it's molecular.
Well, chamomile might help, actually, but yes, the core fix is molecular. You need to boost NAD plus EU. You can use precursors like NR or NMN. Many people know those. But just as important is reducing NAD plus waste.
Waste. How does NAD plus get wasted?
There's an enzyme called CD38. It chews up NAD plus E, especially when there's inflammation. So inhibiting CD38 is key, and guess what contains a compound called apigenin that might help inhibit it?
Let me guess.
Chamomile.
You got it. So that simple tea could have a real molecular benefit there.
That's brilliant. Science meets tradition. What about directly activating the sirtuins?
Compounds like pterostilbene A, think blueberries resveratrol from grapes, or fucoidin, which comes from seaweed. These seem to act like on switches for those sirtuins.
Okay, good actionable stuff there. Now, let's talk about the troublemakers. Principle 6, senescent cells, the zombie cells. These are cells that are damaged or old. They stop dividing, which is good in a way, prevents cancer sometimes. But instead of dying off cleanly, they just hang around. like
And they
zombies.
cause problems just by sticking around.
They do. They spew out this cocktail of inflammatory signals. Scientists call it the SASP. It's like they're constantly sending out distress signals, inflaming all the healthy cells nearby, like that bad apple spoiling the whole barrel.
Right, so clearing them out is a major anti-inflammatory strategy.
Absolutely crucial for lowering that chronic low-grade inflammation that drives so much age-related disease.
Now, there was that interesting Israeli study using hyperbaric oxygen therapy, HBOT. It seemed to reduce these zombie cells and even lengthen telomeres.
Yes, that study got a lot of attention. 60 sessions showed those positive effects. It was compelling. However, and this is a big however, we need real caution here.
Why? What's the downside of HBOT?
HBOT works by flooding the body with oxygen, creating high oxygen stress. While that can trigger some beneficial responses like wound healing, chronically high oxygen levels can be toxic to certain cells, especially your stem cells.
Wait, so HBOT could actually kill stem cells if used improperly?
That's the risk. High doses of oxygen create oxidative stress that can deplete your precious stem cell reserves over time. So while it's great for specific medical issues, non-healing wounds, infections using it routinely just for general longevity, especially if you're healthy, that might be counterproductive. It needs expert guidance.
That's a huge takeaway. Something seemingly beneficial could actually deplete our deepest reserves.
Wow. Okay, this brings up a practical point. How do we balance all this serious science with, actually live? What if I want cake sometimes? This links to Principle 7, waste management, specifically glycation.
Right. This is the strategy for enjoying life a bit. Glycation is basically damage from sugar. Broken down sugars stick to proteins, fats, even DNA, creating these things called advanced glycation end products, or AGGs.
AGs.
Yeah.
They literally age you. Pretty much. They cause proteins to cross-link and stiffen, they gum up cellular machinery, and they fuel inflammation. Think stiff arteries, cloudy eye lenses, wrinkled skin. AGEs contribute.
So how do we fight back, especially if we indulge occasionally?
It's a three-pronged defense strategy, basically. First, block carb absorption partly. Polyphenols, like chlorogenic acid found in coffee, can slow down the enzymes that break down carbs in your gut, so less sugar gets absorbed in the first place.
Okay, block some sugar at the door. What's next?
Second, inside the cell, inhibit the conversion of glucose into its most damaging forms. There's a pathway called the polyol pathway. Substances like pylorostat are being researched to kind of shield against that internal conversion.
So less toxic sugar forms inside. And the third prong.
Third, filter out the AGEs that have already formed and are floating around. Molecules like lactoferrin from dairy and carnosine, an amino acid, act like sponges, binding to AGEs to help clear them out.
Block, inhibit, filter. That sounds like a plan. It allows for some flexibility.
Exactly. It protects your cells while letting you live a little.
This has been incredibly insightful. So let's try and synthesize this for you, the listener. Longevity really seems to be this holistic puzzle, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You absolutely need the lifestyle foundations: curiosity, muscle, sleep, connection, purpose.
Yeah, they're non-negotiable.
And then you layer on these targeted cellular strategies: boosting NAD, plus outfood, supporting sirtuins, managing zombie cells, protecting against glycation.
It's about having an informed strategy. Modern life throws a lot at our cells. You don't need perfection, but you do need a plan to mitigate the damage.
And it's not just about popping pills, is it? It's about integrating this understanding into how you live, how you engage with the world.
Absolutely. That connection between internal health and sort of outward expression and purpose is key. It's something the source material from Yuck and Sanat really emphasizes.
Okay, so reflecting on that HBOT discussion, how high oxygen meant to help might actually harm stem cells.
That leads to our final thought for you. What are you currently doing? Maybe an extreme exercise routine, some biohacking tech, even a high-dose supplement that you assume is boosting your longevity. But could it, just possibly, be putting your deeper cellular reserves, like those precious stem cells, at risk without you realizing it?
Something to really mull over.
Definitely. And remember, this deep dive drew inspiration from that unique research combining scientific expertise and AI analysis. If you want to explore more strategies for long-term health, connecting that inner wellness with aesthetic health, we invite you to check out Yuck and Sanat in Denizli. Also, look up their YouTube channel. They cover fascinating topics like face yoga, longevity science, art therapy, really bridging that gap between looking good and feeling profoundly well.
Thank you so much for guiding us through that complex landscape. And thank you, our listener, for joining us on this deep dive. We look forward to the next one.